Hello students, welcome to the channel once again. So before starting anything further, I had observed in your book that is you all might be facing few issues related to the lesson. So I'll be teaching you all these things, right, related to the lesson. Like from lesson 1 to lesson 5 we'll be doing a revision of literature reader, that is Communicate with Cambridge, this book, right students. So I would like to tell you one thing, that I want you to concentrate in this period, because in this whole video, because you if you do not concentrate, you might miss out something that is very very important for you to understand, right students. Okay, so let us start with the video. And as you all can see, the first lesson of your literature reader was this lesson Attila, that was written by R.K. Narayan, right? And in this lesson, what had happened, that there was a contrast. What happened, we'll just have a quick revision of the lesson also, and then I'll be teaching you what devices are used in this lesson. So in Attila, what had happened, that Attila was actually a dog, and we know that in the real case, Attila was the emperor, or was the ruler of the Hunnic Empire. So you see, this dog was a shy little dog, but the name of the dog was kept Attila. Was actually inspired by Attila, the person, the ruler of the Hunnic Empire, right? So you see, there is a contrast. Why there is a contrast? Because because as you see, Attila in real life, the dog was very shy, but Attila, the ruler or the emperor, was a very very brave emperor who was the ruler of the Hunnic Empire, right? So there is a contrast. That means one thing is not contrasting the other thing. Like that means, sorry, one thing is not related to other thing. Both the things are opposite. That is the meaning of contrast, students. If you observe in the picture below, you see extended metaphor. Sorry, not extended metaphor, I'm so sorry. I'll just this put it down. It's contrast. So we'll just come to that picture. I hope you had understood that lesson, Attila. Okay, students. Yes, so this is a contrast. Okay students, so here you can see contrast is to set an opposition in order to show or emphasize means to give importance to differences, right? So there is an opposition, there is an opposite thing that is related to this, right? Contrast, say that contrast city and country life contrasted with computer with inferior models. Like this is the example given to you, but no need to concentrate on this example, because in Attila what is happening, that opposition is there. So one thing is a ruler that is of the Hunnic Empire, who is very brave, and his name is Attila. But on the other hand, we have this dog who is very shy, and his name is kept Attila. So you see the contrast. One, Attila is so brave, and the other, the Attila the dog, is so shy, right? So this is what is happening over here. Another thing that I would like to tell you is rhetoric device. So what is a rhetorical device? If you go on page number 11 in your book, that is the first lesson Attila, you find in the appreciation part, the third line or the next paragraph, you find contrast is a rhetorical device. So rhetorical device is actually a term, right students? So what is a rhetorical device? So rhetorical device is a technique where writers use to convey any idea, or they convey enhance arguments. So rhetorical device is a device used, it's not a device, physical device, it is a way of writing that is used by the writers or the poets to convey different types of to convey ideas or to convey arguments. Okay, so in the next paragraph, if you observe, writers and speakers use rhetorical devices within the language in order to emphasize means to give importance to, explain or unify ideas, and often to persuade means making you think the same way that I am thinking, like, I'm persuading, vash mein karna, that we say in Hindi. So that is persuasion. Okay, so when the writer tries to persuade you, that means he tries to bring you to the concept that he has written, or makes you understand his point of view, right? So that he's trying to persuade you. So to use all these things, this is called as this, all the things together is called as rhetorical devices, right, students? So I hope this thing is clear to you. Okay, yes. So character sketch, students, if you go on page number 12, you have character sketch. And in the prior classes, you all must have observed, if I have taught you, we have done a lot of character sketch. If you remember the character sketch of Uncle Podger, so character sketch is a thing that you write about the character, right? You write about the character, that is a character sketch. And what you have to write, first you have to understand what is the background of the character, right? You have to understand that. Then you have to understand what the character is all about, what the character's traits means what is his habits, what is the character's way of thinking, how does the character think, what are the character's other things that you want the reader to know, right? Are you understanding? Just a second, guys. Okay, yes. So that is character sketch, right, students? So what is happening is, okay, so yes, so and while writing character sketch, students, you have to use humor. You can use adjective of quality, like my like if I have written a character, and for example, if you see the character sketch of Attila, so what is the quality that Attila possessed? Attila possessed a quality of being very shy. He was very friendly. He was shy, but he was very friendly even with the strangers. Normally dogs are not like that. If they see the dogs that are guard dogs that guard the house are not very friendly, because when they see a stranger, they start barking instead of going and mingling up with the stranger. What happens? They start barking on that stranger, giving a signal that the person might be a danger to the house. Are you understanding? So this is what is happening, right? So this is what is happening. Okay, now if another quality that you can add is humor in your description. Humor means funny, right? You can add a funny description also in your character. So write a character sketch of Attila. So you have to write a character sketch of Attila, right? So for writing the character sketch of Attila, what you'll need, students, so you'll need to first read the lesson thoroughly. First thing that you have to do is you have to read the lesson thoroughly. Okay, students, so before I start any video, I am requesting you to carry a pen and a book along with you, or pen or a diary along with you, so that so that whenever I tell you some important note or something important, I want you to write it down, right, students? So what I want you to do is, first step is read the lesson thoroughly, right? Read once, read twice. If you still have any doubt, you can read the third time also. Second thing that you want to that you should do is, you have to take the notes of Attila. So suppose there is a sentence where you find Attila is a bit friendly, so just write Attila dash friendly, right? Then you just go on making that concept map kind of thing, right? And then you'll understand that that yes, you can, you just go on taking notes, and then at the end it will be very very easy for you to write the character sketch of any character. So first thing is that you have to read the lesson thoroughly. Second, the character on which you are going to write, you have to concentrate on that, and you have to find the hints what are given about the character, right students? Okay, I hope you all have understood. So this was the revision and understanding the appreciation part of the lesson number 1, that is Attila. Now we move on to lesson number 2, that is the open window, students. Okay, so in the open window, first you'll find the phrasal verb. Okay, I hope in phrasal verbs we have also studied the phrasal verbs in CAE also, students, if you remember. Okay, so this is a phrasal verb. So what is a phrasal verb? It has a verb, and then it is often is a group of words that often functions as a verb. So it consists of a verb and it consists of a preposition, and together preposition or an adverb, and together they form a phrasal verb, and the meaning of it is different. So the meaning of the verb might be different, and the meaning of the adverb or the preposition might be different. Okay, separately, if I break the words separately, they are different, but when I put the words together, they become a phrasal verb, and they convey a different meaning. So you can see some of the phrasal verbs on your screen, students. So first one is check off. So if I take check differently, if I separate check from off, the meaning of check is to just check, just to rectify, right? But if I take off means take off something. So these words have two different meanings, right students? So check has a different meaning, off has a different meaning. But when I put both the words together, what happens? They convey an altogether different meaning. So what is the meaning of check off? To make a mark to the next. So you see, the meaning is totally different. Let on. So what is the meaning of let on? Let on means to make, just a second, I think it's just given get around. Yeah, so it's like let on, and the meaning is given below. Make clear, make it clear, make something clear. Then we have get around. Get around means to travel to different places, right? Pass out. So this you must have heard in a lot. This is like, I think it's an American phrasal verb. Mostly they use it, and we say it in a very this manner. What we say it in a very typical literal manner, like I became unconscious, or that person became unconscious. But if you say pass out also, that also means becoming unconscious. So you see the phrasal verb how it is used. Break into means interrupt. So she just broke into my call. It doesn't mean she broke me or she broke something. It means to interrupt, right? Okay, so I hope you all have understood the phrasal verbs. Okay, so this we had done. Next is, so this was the second lesson. In second lesson, page number 20, you will find the phrasal verbs. Okay, and the phrasal verbs will be given, and the meaning column will be given. So you have to know the meaning. Okay, everything will not be spoon feeded. Little bit you also have to use your brains and try to understand and try to write what is the meanings. Okay students, okay, good. Okay, so we'll go to the next. Yes, so we have this diary writing, students. If you remember last year, that is students to whom I have taught last year in the prior grades, we had done a lot of diary entry. So I'll just give you a basic this format of diary entry. I'll just go forward. Just a minute, students. This is sketch. Yeah, so this is the diary entry format. This is not of grade 8 specifically. This you can use it at in any grade. If you use this diary entry, it will be acceptable. There's nothing like grade 8 or grade 7. Diary entry has a a typical format that anyone can follow in any grade. So first you have to write the, you can see on your screen, students, you have to write the day, date. Then day and date in diary entry is very important because it is a diary entry. So when you become big or when you get older and when you look back, so you don't want to look at the pages, you don't even remember when I had written that. So date and time is very important, so that when you get older and when you pick up the diary, you should come to know that at what time, what age I was when I wrote that, and all these things, right? So don't just blindly keep writing. Time is also very important. If it is 9 a.m. in the morning, it is 3 p.m. in the afternoon, or it is a night time, that is very important. Salutations, so you have to give salutations to the diary. For example, hello diary, hey diary, what's up diary, anything, something like that, right? Give some salutations. Or dear diary, if you want to keep it simple and classic, you can write at it as dear diary. So if you know, Anne Frank used to call her diary Kitty, Kitty. So she had named her diary as Kitty. So you can do that also. You can name your diary also something. Okay, I'll not suggest you, that is upon your imagination, like what you have to name your diary as. Then you have to write the dot lines that you can see, that is the body, whatever happened in the day. Okay, whatever happened. So your diary writing should be very expressive, because you're expressing everything that had happened, and you will consider your diary as a friend. So when you're writing, dear diary, today was the best day of my life because I received an award for being, for not being absent, and for 100% present. Just giving you an example. So you'll always use first person, I, because it's your diary, you are writing it, you are considering your diary as a friend. Okay, students, so your diary is nothing, you are not going to consider your diary as something that is a non-living thing. It is, but what you are going to imagine, that your diary is your friend, and you are going to write according to that. Okay, students, so how you are going to write, hey diary, today was a wonderful day, I received an award for 100% presentee, and I was awarded, and everyone clapped for me, it was a motivation for me, I was very very happy. If something else also happened in your day to school, it can be any day. Okay, it can be your time, you can write your whole routine also. Today I got up in the morning, brush my teeth, this, that, and everything, till you sleep. Or if you want, you can write a short glimpse of your that day also, not everything in too much detail, but you can write a short glimpse also, right? Okay, then you can, don't sign, I must say. If you don't sign, that's also okay, but I will recommend you not to sign. Just write the name. Suppose your name is Akanksha, for example, write Akanksha, and then below that, thank you diary. First just write thank you diary, then Akanksha, see you soon, something like that. Thank you diary, see you soon, and then below that your name. Okay, so I hope this thing is clear to you. Next, I had received an email saying that there was a confusion, or there was a thing in understanding extended metaphor. So first, before understanding extended metaphor, I want you all to understand what exactly is metaphor, because today we'll be covering up everything in detail, because this is revision, right, students? Sorry. So first we'll understand what is metaphor. So yes, this is metaphor. This is the extended metaphor. But what is a metaphor? Wait a minute, students. Yes, so this is the metaphor. If you observe, students, if you observe here, a word or a phrase that is used in an imaginative way to show somebody or something that has the same quality, that has the same qualities as another thing. I know it's becoming too complicated, but what are you going to say is that extended metaphor. What are you going to say is that what are you going to understand is that if you see the sentence over here on the screen, her words were a knife in his heart. Her words were a knife in his heart. So what the writer is doing, he is comparing her words with a knife. Okay, so this is an indirect comparison. Don't compare it with simile, because simile is a direct comparison. So she is her she is as beautiful as a rose, as, like. So when I have these words as or like, that is a direct comparison. So I'm just saying it directly, she is as beautiful as a rose. No, but here in metaphor, what is happening, it is happening like her words were knife in his heart. So what is happening, her words were knife in his heart, so her words are being compared to the knife, right students? So this is the basic meaning or basic definition of metaphor, right? Now we'll come to what is extended metaphor. Okay, so extended metaphor is not limited to one sentence. In the earlier example that was on your screen, you all saw the metaphor was extended to one sentence. Sorry, was limited to one sentence. But in extended metaphor, what is happening? The metaphor is being extended. Just, it's not one sentence now, it's a big whole paragraph or many sentences long or several sentences long. Okay, a regular metaphor a regular metaphor is like a simple comparison, there's nothing too complicated in that. But an extended metaphor is a layered, multifaceted comparison. So it is not a single thing that has been compared to a single thing. In extended metaphor, what happens, a series of things are compared to one another, and it is not one line or one sentence, it is multiple sentences, it may be a paragraph long. So students, if you observe "Oh Captain, My Captain," your poem that is written by Walt Whitman, what is happening in that is an extended metaphor, right students? Why? Because the whole poem is a comparison of one thing to another, and it is not limited to one line. It's not that only one line of the poem is a metaphor, but the whole poem is a metaphor. So you take where on the deck my captain lies, for example. Where on my deck the captain lies is a metaphor that the poet is using a captain as Abraham Lincoln and deck as the country, right? So you see there is a complicated there is a complicated comparison of many things to many things, that is extended. What is the meaning of extended, students? So I have told you in earlier earlier videos also, that if you don't understand anything, do one thing, that you just go back to the word. So the word is extended. So what is the meaning of extended, students? Extended means to extend. Short means short. Extend means I've extended it. So you understand, extended metaphor means it is not limited to one sentence. The metaphor is being used in a multifaceted comparison. Many things are being compared to a lot of things. That is extended metaphor. Okay, so I hope you all have understood this, right? Okay. Now we'll go to bio sketch. If you come to lesson number 3, that is "Oh Captain, My Captain," go on page 28, you will find a bio sketch. You have to write about the idol. So we know what is a character sketch. Character sketch is a character that I am writing. It might be an imaginary character, or you might have read somewhere, and that character you have to write and imbibe every quality, write every quality about that character, right? But what is a bio sketch is very different from a typical character sketch. Okay, character writing. So bio sketch is a type. I have the picture, I'll just show you, just a second. Okay, so you have here, so biographical sketch or bio sketch. So biographical sketch or bio sketch is one and the same thing. So the main it is about a person that you admire. Okay, suppose I admire any XYZ writer. For example, I'll take Ruskin Bond for now. Suppose I admire Ruskin Bond, so I'll be writing about Ruskin Bond's date of birth, age, place, everything, what his major personality traits are. If I know anyone personally, I can write what the personality traits are. But if you don't know, no need to write, there's no major need about it. Okay, then educational qualifications, what is his achievements, what is that idol's qualification, what did he achieve in his life. So I'll be writing that about Ruskin Bond. Okay, then what is the contribution of his to the society, so how he is contributed. So we know he was a children's writer, he is a children's writer. So and he has even received a lot of national level awards, even international level awards. Okay, so he has a special interest in writing, and he is famous for writing many novels and books for children and even adults, right? Okay, so this is what a bio sketch is. So I have this, just a minute. Yes, so if you see Vishwanathan Anand, okay, so we know he was a chess player, and yes, yeah, I think he, see, if you see, everything is written about him, his age, his date of birth, where he was born, what is his qualification, what achievements did he get, and all these things. Okay. So this is just a format, this is just an example, students, of biosketch, how a biosketch is to be written. So for this you will need a little bit help from Wikipedia, because we don't know about a person exactly what he has won. So little help from there will make your biosketch really good. Okay, yes. Students, so now we have this thing, just oh captain, my captain, we'll just go on this thing called as repetition. What is repetition? By the word itself you come to know that repetition means any word or any phrase, just a minute students, yes, any word or any phrase that is that is, just a minute students. Okay, students, so any words or any phrase that we use repeatedly to give importance to it, or might be to create create a rhythmic tune, that is known as repetition. And why do we do this? To give emphasis or to give importance to that particular phrase or that particular word. Okay, so example I'll be giving you. So students, if you observe over here in this part, you will be observing that only you, only you, the word you is repeated. And why the word you is repeated? You is repeated to give it a rhythmic feel, and also to put the emphasis or to put the importance on the word you. That is the reason you is being repeated. So in this poem, if you observe, oh captain, my captain, you, not you is repeated, but oh captain, my captain, this phrase is repeated in most of the stanzas or every stanza. But why it is repeated? Because to give it emphasis, to give the poem emphasis that we are talking about this only, or to give a rhythmic effect to the poem, right? That is why repetition is used. So I hope you all have understood what is repetition. Okay, repetition is the repeating of the phrases or the words used by authors or poets to give emphasis or to create a rhythmic effect, right? Okay. Excuse me. Now we'll come to the next chapter. That is, we have done with bio sketch. The thing that we have to do is, just a minute students, yes, personification we have to do. Personification, what is personification students? Personification means giving human qualities to animals or objects. Okay, so the example given here is, the star winked at me. So any normal person at any normal circumstance will tell me the stars cannot wink, but the poet or the writer has given the quality of winking to the star. That is called as personification. So if I give clouds the ability to run, as a poet, as a form of a literary device, so that what I'm doing, I'm personifying, right? So that is called as personification. So I have the pictures from your books. So if you observe this, so Gandhi ji in a letter to Adolf Hitler, if you read students, that is your lesson number 5, a letter to Adolf Hitler, if you say. So over here what has happened, Gandhi ji is writing a letter to Adolf Hitler and he is addressing Adolf Hitler, and therefore if you read, Gandhi uses personification in the letter. So where he uses, he have underlined, such are your humiliation of Czechoslovakia. So can Czechoslovakia be humiliated students, you tell me? Sorry, can Czechoslovakia be humiliated? You tell me, the whole country, does that country Czechoslovakia possess a quality of getting humiliated? No, but that Gandhiji has personified, right? And then you have murder of Poland. Can we murder Poland? No, but Gandhiji has personified and given it as an example to Hitler, right? Murder of Poland, right? And swallowing of Denmark. Can anyone swallow Denmark as a whole? No, nobody can swallow. But the possession, the quality of swallowing, the quality of not the quality, but yeah, the quality of being humiliated is all possessed by human beings and not by countries. So this is what Gandhi ji has done over here in this letter to address Adolf Hitler in a very polite tone, right? Okay, sorry for this. Yeah. Next students, I have this picture. Yeah, so this is if you observe it, I'll just shorten this. Yeah. Okay, so this picture is from your book, page number 48 over here, if you can see 48, from this lesson, letter to Adolf Hitler. If you observe here, this is a formal letter. So you have everything on the left side. Students, you have everything on the left side. Okay, so this is, you have to keep everything on the left side, students, right? And the sender's address, date, then you'll be writing sender's address first, then you'll be writing the date, then you'll be writing the designation and address of the addressee. Addressee is the person to whom you are going to send the letter. Suppose you are a student and you want to write a letter to the principal, so designation and the address of the addressee. So you will be writing the address and the designation of the person. Suppose designation means post. Suppose you are writing a letter to the teacher, so you'll mention to the teacher, right? Suppose you are writing a letter to the principal, so you'll mention the post of the person to the principal, and then you'll write the whole address of the person. Suppose you are writing to a teacher or you're writing to a principal or a vice principal, so you will be writing the school's address. Okay, then you'll be writing the subject line. Suppose you want to take a leave of let's say 10 days, right? You're going somewhere for some festival or something like that. So in the subject line you are going to write subject dash request for leave of 10 days or something, or a week. Salutation, student, salutation means respected ma'am, respected sir. That are salutations. The way you say dear or respected, so dear we use in informal letter, but in formal we cannot use dear to our principal. Any person who is carrying an authority or has a post, okay, to that person we normally do not use dear. Okay, yeah, but in some circumstances we can use dear, but under normal circumstances we do not use dear, we write requested, right? Respected, sorry. Then there's the body. This I've already explained you in the prior classes also. Then we have the introduction, main content, and conclusion. Complimentary closure, that means thank you, regards, thanks and regards, then comma, then your name, and then your sign. Okay students, so I hope this is clear to you. I hope the revision video was clear to you all, and I hope that you all have understood. If at all anything you have any doubt related to anything, I want you to comment down, or you can email me on the email ID provided to you, right students? Okay, so further lessons revision will be doing in another video. There will be another video because there is a lot of content that I have to teach you. So 6, 7, 8, okay, 6, 7, 8 revision will be there in another video. Till then students, take care of yourself and of your family. We'll meet in the next video.